You know that feeling when everyone around you is excited to go out and you're already looking forward to the moment you can finally go home? Not because you didn't enjoy yourself, not because you don't like the people you're with, but because somehow being alone feels like taking your first deep breath after holding it in all day. If you've ever felt that way, you've probably asked yourself at some point, why am I like this? Maybe you've even wondered why everyone else seems to have so much more social energy than you. Or maybe you've even worried that something was wrong with you. But what if nothing is wrong with you? What if your need for solitude isn't something to fix, but simply the way your brain is wired? Because psychology has been studying this for decades, and what researchers have found is very different from what most people assume. Let's clear up one of the biggest misconceptions first. Enjoying solitude doesn't automatically mean you're lonely. It doesn't mean you're shy, and it definitely doesn't mean you're antisocial. For some people, being alone isn't something they simply prefer. It's how they recover. Even enjoyable conversations, family dinners, or spending time with people they genuinely love can slowly drain their mental energy. Imagine your social energy like a phone battery. Some people recharge by being around others. The more conversations they have, the more energized they feel. But for others, every conversation, every crowded room, every social obligation uses a little more battery. And the only thing that truly charges it again is quiet, is solitude. This isn't a personality flaw, it's neuroscience. Psychologists often explain this through something called optimal arousal theory. The idea is surprisingly simple. Every brain has its own comfort level when it comes to stimulation. Some people naturally crave more activity, more conversation, more excitement. Their brains thrive on it. Others are simply more sensitive. Too much noise, too many conversations, too many things happening at once. Instead of feeling energized, they begin to feel overwhelmed. That's why spending time alone doesn't feel empty to them. It feels like relief, like finally letting their nervous system slow down. So, when someone who enjoys solitude turns down an invitation, it doesn't necessarily mean they don't like you. Sometimes, their brain is simply asking for a break. And here's something many people don't realize. Spending time alone isn't the same as doing nothing. Your brain is still working. It's organizing experiences, reflecting, making connections you didn't even realize were there. Researchers have consistently linked healthy solitude with greater creativity, stronger self-awareness, and deeper thinking. Think about those moments when you're sitting quietly, taking a walk, or simply staring out the window. From the outside, it might look like nothing is happening, but inside, your mind is often doing some of its most important work. That's why protecting time alone isn't always about escaping people. Sometimes, it's about giving your mind the space it needs to think. But solitude doesn't just affect your energy. It also shapes the way you experience the world. People who naturally enjoy spending time alone often have rich inner lives. They notice details other people miss. They replay conversations. They reflect before they react. They tend to process experiences more deeply. In a world that constantly rewards being loud, being busy, and always being available, that can easily be misunderstood. Quiet people are often called distant, cold, or unfriendly, when in reality, they may simply be paying attention to things that other people never notice. Some of the most meaningful thoughts don't happen in crowded rooms. They happen in quiet ones. But there's one important distinction. Choosing solitude is very different from hiding from the world. Healthy solitude feels peaceful. It helps you recharge. After spending time alone, you usually feel calmer, clearer, more like yourself. Isolation feels different. It often comes from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being judged, fear of not being enough. Instead of restoring your energy, it slowly makes your world feel smaller. One is a choice, the other is a coping strategy, and understanding that difference matters more than most people realize. So if you've always been someone who needs time alone, maybe it's time to stop apologizing for it. You don't have to force yourself to enjoy every social event just because everyone else seems to. You don't have to feel guilty for needing quiet after a busy day. Your brain may simply recharge differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. The world often tells us that louder is better, that being constantly social is healthier. But psychology paints a much more balanced picture. Some people find themselves in conversation. Others find themselves in silence. Neither is better. They're simply different. So maybe your love for solitude isn't something you need to fix. Maybe it's something you need to understand. Maybe you've spent years trying to become more outgoing, more available, more like everyone else. But maybe peace was never supposed to look that way for you. Maybe the question was never, what's wrong with me? Maybe the better question is, what kind of environment helps me become the healthiest version of myself? I'd love to hear from you. Do you feel most like yourself when you're around people or when you're finally alone? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring the psychology behind everyday experiences, consider subscribing, because the next video might explain something you've been wondering about for years.
Like, share, and subscribe.